We're about to go live from this wonderful structure here. Flipping. All right. Maybe. There you go. So we're about to talk some trash here, people. All right. Today's stream will focus on the second part of our conversation. The first part we did it in English. We did it in Spanish. Now we're doing it in English. We're going to talk about public enemy number one. Who is public enemy number one to Trump and the American people? The chances are that I am probably the only person who's doing this in English and Spanish. There may be some other people who have concluded that all of the events that have happened in the last, 48 hours, maybe the last 3 months, maybe even the last 4 years are a consequence of Mr. Netanyahu, right? I'm going to go back even to the 60s because everything that's been done, the Second World War, from the Second World War on, has had a purpose. And the oldest chess piece on the board right now, after the death of President Carter, is precisely Mr. Netanyahu and everything that has been done. If you go back and you analyze the history of what he has been a part of, I'm talking about Prime Minister Netanyahu in Israel, and I'm not talking about the Israeli people, not talking about the movements or whether or not they have rights or not rights. That's not my conversation. My conversation is, in the last 5 days, we've had attacks in U.S. soil, terrorism attacks in U.S. soil, and all of a sudden, these protests pro supposedly Hamas are happening in New York City, and all of a sudden, people are imploding in vehicles in front of Trump facilities using Tesla vehicles, and all of a sudden, you're seeing these crazy things that happen elsewhere around the world that we've seen in other places around the world. Imploding beepers and cell phones and terrorism attacks, people walking around with strapped on stuff and in public places. And I think for the first time in history, it is more than evident that somehow every one of these things is connected, and it's connected with a purpose. When it means, again, talking about that last chess piece on the board called Netanyahu. If you go back to the Twin Towers and remember all of the rights that Americans lost as a consequence of 9/11. 9/11 key dates, 9/11 pre-existing of the Iraqi wars that eventually forced migrations of millions and millions of people around the world to European centers, mainly from Middle East and other countries. And that today people are looking back on and analyzing what happened. If you go from then on, and every single other chess piece that you can think of related to Gaza, Palestine, two-state solution, I was reading and seeing some of the interviews on Mr. Carter, President Carter, yesterday, and how he proposed way back in the 70s, way back in the 60s, and his experience on the subject, on Gaza and Palestine and Israel, and how at then the Arafat, at then Mandela, and then all of these voices that wanted a peaceful solution. But the peaceful solution required people to make choices and have to give and take and negotiate. And these are things that some of these individuals, specifically Netanyahu, are not willing to do. So what has happened? And the reason why this video, the second video, the first one in Spanish, and this video, the reason is because we're about 17 days away from the inauguration of Donald J. Trump. And then all of a sudden, you get stuff like this going on. Or this going on. And we don't connect the two or the three when they should be connected, because they make more sense when they're connected. We're going to come back after these sponsors and have the real conversation on the details as to why. I mentioned the Twin Towers, but we can go back to the Arafat days. We can go back to the creation of the borders. We can go back to World War II. Well, we're going to start off 5 days from now. So we'll be back in a minute. Escuela Virtual de los Hermanos Cordero. We have this project. It's a project. It's a beautiful project. It's been going on for the last 2 years. And what do? Well, we have 10 modules of different educational, it's an educational platform. Let me start off by saying that. And we have 10 different classes using modules that we teach, virtual or mixed modules, that being online or virtual videos that we have designed in Spanish and in English. For example, OBS Studio and Rumble Bootcamp, introduction to cryptocurrencies like blockchain and ledger technology. Los Hermanos Cordero are these 1800s, these self-educated teachers had created schools. Him and his two sisters, Rafael Cordero is the person you see in the picture. They were very much part of the history of education, if not just in Puerto Rico, in the whole Caribbean. They were Black, and they were teaching way before the school system. Majestic Design. She facilitates a lot of the stuff that we do in Puerto Rico. She helps us by letting us use her facilities. Majestic Design. She makes everything personalized products for businesses and individuals. Anything with cups, cards, web pages, clipboards, and a whole. So this person has been helping us for the last few years. And so this person has been helping us for the last few years. And he also installs lighting, solar lighting. So this is
Washington, D.C. coming up on the 19th with us doing the tour. The tour, it's donation, anywhere between 25 and 35. Donation you can give us so we can do these projects and pay the cost and stuff like that. We're not looking to get rich or anything like that. By the way, $35 for a tour of 23, 24, ending up in Chinatown, starting off in Union Square, Union Station in Washington, D.C., and going through everything. You know, it's like a mile or maybe a mile and a half, almost 2 miles of walking with myself as a tour guide. I am a historian, you know that. I've written books and all this. I have other tours running in New York and other tours running in Puerto Rico. Washington, D.C. coming up on the 19th with us doing the tour. The tour, it's donation, anywhere between 25 and 35. Donation you can give us so we can do these projects and pay the cost and stuff like that. We're not looking to get rich or anything like that.
Washington
By the way,
tour,
$35 for a tour
it's filling up fast, people.
23, 24, ending up in Chinatown, starting off in Union Square, Union Station in Washington, D.C., and going through everything.
Discussion,
you know, it's like a mile or maybe
on who benefits from all of these events that have happened in the last week or so. Actually, even more than that, but I think the bet was that Donald Trump wasn't going to win. All the money backing Kamala Harris, the most manipulated government in American history. Probably not the only, we know that, but I'm saying the last 4 years have been incredibly violent and sponsored mainly with US money around the world. Everything has been so disastrous, you know, over 700,000. We don't even know the numbers, really. Just speculating here. People who have died in Ukraine and Russia, and the who knows how many hundreds of thousands of people have passed in Gaza. You know, the worst genocide in modern day history. And every single country that actually attempted to create some sort of peaceful resolution was shot down, and any leader who attempted to talk anything in pro-peace just was ridiculed. And all of the movements and channels and social media, people who decided that war was not the answer were pretty much shut down. So who benefits from all of this disasters? Well, mainly who has benefited so far has been the people who are in charge of the wars, and the people who make all the armaments and companies. And if you look at the pockets of all these people, even the corporations, even the media who is behind all this, and the people who are making the big bucks, it's pretty easy to conclude. The biggest benefit in probably the last 3 years, very sadly, talking about war and talking about people being killed and talking about, you know, Israelis being killed and all of that land being poisoned with bombs and, you know, all of the blood that has been shed there. It's very sad what we have seen, and it's incredible how the media has just opted to portray. It's not that incredible when you think about who's behind the media and who's controlling the media, and the people who work at the media being threatened, and the people who work at the universities, and the presidents who had to resign, and all this stuff because you can't make comments against Netanyahu and the Gaza destruction and genocide and Holocaust. So what we have decided is that because Trump does not owe himself to anyone and will make decisions according to his peace strategies, he's been very, very, very successful on peace. during the last 4 years. We know that there was conflicts going on with the Trump years, yes. But wars like the things that we've experienced in the last 4 years, no, that didn't happen, especially new wars. And we know that that's part of what he has said. He has actually talked about the destruction and the killings of the people in Palestine. Is that he wants war? I mean, that he wants peace, not war, and he wants deals that will benefit everyone. And I think those are the Carter words that people don't associate necessarily with Donald Trump. And I will because the videos that I saw just made a lot of sense. Just an outsider who wasn't in anyone's pocket like Carter was able to say these things and stand by them. There's great videos on that. And I think that people should refresh. And I think that's very like what's happening with Trump, because Trump does not owe himself to anyone. And even if he's pro-Israel, most people would say, yeah, but he's pro-Israel. Yeah, that may be the case, but I think he's also pro-peace. And I think there's a balance that could be had here, because making a negotiation, he's an expert at. So, but you have to be willing to negotiate. You have to be willing to give something up. So I'm actually concluding, and the reason why I think it's important that someone says this is that the consequences of what's happening will be dire for generations to come. I think that the damage that has been done to the region, it's basically just seeded future terrorism for the world. And I think that the terrorism basically that has seeded will benefit people who love war. And when we talk about people who love war, the last piece on the chessboard of international of international relevance is Mr. Netanyahu. I know there are new generations, but I think he's the last surviving piece of a historical moment in history that peace was possible. Uh, I hope that this is taken with a grain of respect, you know, because what we're thinking about is that the damage that wants to be unleashed on the world for next generations, just to benefit individuals like Netanyahu, should not be allowed. You know, and political negotiations have always been on the table, but people who preach hate and destruction and justification, I always ask myself, where would I be if I was alive in World War II and would live in Germany? And where would I stand? I would probably stand with peace. I would probably have been, who knows, disappeared. And because I would probably be in favor of peaceful resolutions and no genocide. And if I even knew anything like that would be happening, I'd probably be doing videos way back then, or at least writing articles. So who's benefiting from this disaster? I'm pointing the finger to Mr. Netanyahu, and I think that Trump knows this. So we'll be doing another video in a couple of hours. I want to thank you all precisely for this event, and follow us on our Arakataka Macondo Spanish English channel. We talk about this and many other subjects. Thank you.
Escuela Virtual de los Hermanos Cordero. We have this project. It's a project. It's a beautiful project. It's been going on for the last 2 years. And what do? Well, we have 10 modules of different it's an educational platform. Let me start off by saying that. And we have 10 different classes using modules that we teach, virtual or mixed modules, that being online or virtual videos that we have designed in Spanish and in English. For example, OBS Studio and Rumble Bootcamp, introduction to cryptocurrencies like blockchain and ledger technology. Los Hermanos Cordero are these 1800s, these self-educated teachers had created schools. Him and his two sisters, Rafael Cordero is the person you see in the picture. They were very majestic design. She facilitates a lot of the stuff that we do in Puerto Rico. She helps us by letting us use her facilities. Majestic design. She makes everything personalized products for businesses and individuals. Anything with cups, cards, web pages, clipboards. And I am the tour guide that does tours in the Bronx. We do tours in Washington, D.C. coming up on the 19th with us doing the tour. The tour, it's donation, anywhere between 25 and 35. The donation you can give us so we can do these projects. And so this person has been helping us for the last few years. And he also installs lighting, solar lighting. So this is the Christmas special, 100 watts, 100 baht for the last few years. And he also installs lighting, solar lighting. So this is the Christmas special, 100 watts, 100 batios. I think it's called $25, 2 for $40. I can tell you that a lot of the whole community where I live in Puerto Rico, one of the places that I live in Puerto Rico, has a lot of these houses, because of the instability of our electrical system, have installed these really functional and excellent lighting, and it's absolutely awesome. 787-941-9673, 787-941-9673.